21 years ago, the world was introduced to a sponge. He's a fry cook, a jellyfisher, a bad driver, a TV star, and even a film star. SpongeBob has meant so much to the world that he's got another film coming soon in theaters. I hope. Screw you, COVID. But how do the first two films hold up? I'd argue both films are fine examples in translating a show to a movie. Both feel unique and fresh. What SpongeBob managed to offer in both films are two distinct ways a movie can be made out of a show.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
More often than not, movies based on shows, specifically those meant to be in the same continuity of the show, will offer fan service. Try to please fans and non-fans, though mostly fans, and just try to fill in as much as they can that's recognizable to audiences, be it characters, jokes, or various references to the show, which may be lost to newcomers. It's something that's always bugged me, as I've always preferred stories that try to limit as much necessary viewing material as possible. As seeing movies where every other character, line, or scene requires me to have seen other movies or shows often takes me out of the mood, because now I have to look up what the movie is telling me, breaking up the smooth flow if it had just told the story naturally. Overall, both SpongeBob movies are new viewer friendly for the most part, but in terms of how they approached doing so, they took different routes in achieving that. The first movie, simply titled The SpongeBob SquarePants Movie, is the more common route taken by movie adaptations of shows, of sort of big-scale finale of the show it's based on, with SpongeBob wanting a manager position at the new Krusty Krab too. We also see Plankton being much more sadistic than the show ever presented him, as well as a King Neptune and daughter voiced by celebrities because they needed that celebrity money. Rather than just make the movie feel like an episode of the show, everything done here seems to want to emulate a more standard Hollywood film, resulting in a tone that doesn't feel like SpongeBob at times. To be clear, the film has its bits of weird oddities, but for the most part, it feels restrained compared to what the show would normally do. Suddenly, SpongeBob's childlike attitude is an issue with him. Characters coming throughout the show are given cameo at best appearances just to satisfy fans, making it feel newcomer friendly, but a bit too different from the show, as the characters kind of feel like strangers to each other at times. It's not a bad route to take for a film. This is a fun movie, which shows should use as an example for how to do something satisfying, but it does eliminate some of the more absurdist humor the show is known for, trying to play parts safe for mainstream audiences. And sure, stuff like David Hasselhoff, the Goofy Goober Rock song, and to an extent the Crown plot are as absurd as we'd expect from the franchise, but most of the movie feels like something you'd see from a comedic non-Disney feature, so it's not a standout film despite the good qualities.
Something is clearly wrong.
Funny enough, the movie plays like the ending of the show so much that fans believe even creator Steven Hillenburg treated all material that came after to take place before. Me personally, I get that and have treated it as such before, but the show rarely sticks with continuity much, so it's easy to just write it off as its own story. Anyway, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is one of the better movies to tackle this type of adaptation, but as with many shows that do this, I feel like it goes a bit out of its way to please non-fans, for no reason other than they couldn't figure out how to make a bigger story that could stand on its own without alienating newcomers. Understandable, but a bit lacking. And then we have the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. The type of adaptation wherein the movie feels more like an episode than a movie, while also not providing any sort of show-ending scenario. The movie follows SpongeBob stopping Plankton from stealing the cat. Oh wow, it wrote in Keanu Patty.
Hello.
Anyways, the movie follows SpongeBob stopping Plankton from stealing the Krabby Patty secret formula, only this time it magically disappears, resulting in Bikini Bottom descending into a Mad Max-style apocalypse. As SpongeBob tries to help clear Plankton's name, they time travel and encounter weird new friends, and even get on land where they find the culprit behind the theft. It's Antonio Banderas playing a pirate with a magic book. Spoiler, but even the trailers made that obvious.
What are you doing with me formula? You mean me formula?
The main SpongeBob cast becomes superheroes, and the marketing team sold the audience almost entirely on those last 20 minutes of this 90-minute feature.
Oh my God! What is this diabolical thing?
In a way, it's like an episode of the show, but as a movie. It's interesting that the phrase, "it's like a really long episode," is commonly used to insult adaptations of this kind, mostly because movies kind of are really long episodes, and episodes can be considered as short movies. What I'm saying is that realistically, that form of criticism feels like the word bad should be in there. Because the way I see it, playing like an episode can yield some really good results for everyone. This movie feels free of the typical Hollywood rules for films, letting it be its own little neat comedic absurdity that fits nicely with the show. Everything feels like the usual adventures, the show's recurring cast is utilized much more here, while a bigger story is at play that still retains the SpongeBob feel. No real arcs are given beyond Plankton learning to be cooperative, but even that is not given this epic show-ending journey. It just feels suitable for the movie. While it might seem small scale at times, the conflict is fit for a movie, despite not relying on the characters or settings going through an ending scenario. Well, okay, Bikini Bottom is in chaos, but it's played more for laughs than drama, which really made me wish we could see that more often in movies for shows. Sometimes it's nice to just get another adventure, but on a larger scale. SpongeBob Out of Water is a really good movie because it played to the show's strengths, whether it was pleasing non-fans or not. It's important to acknowledge how creative a team can be when they're not restrained by what they think might please newcomers, or even longtime fans, just doing what they know can be fun. I really hope future attempts can learn from this approach, as many movies could have been better without show-ending storylines, or restraints due to fear of new viewers not getting it. Obviously, some movies based on shows can be great if they want to rely on show-ending stories, or with focus for newcomers. I just think it shouldn't come at the cost of changing the identity and tone of the show, which I think Sponge Out of Water handled much better. Where will Sponge on the Run land? Well, judging by the trailers, I'd argue it's closer to Sponge Out of Water. I think more like a SpongeBob episode, but longer of course. And I like that despite going for a CG style, it's still retaining the style the show is known for, making for a visually amazing looking movie. I hope it's good, and as the last thing that creator Steven Hillenburg has any major involvement in, I imagine I might end up even tearing up a little by the end, as I realize that after that, we will never get a new film or a SpongeBob story with his involvement. But I'll always be glad that he got to bring us one more film from a series that already brought two different movies that were both good, despite approaching the film landscape in different ways. Thank you, Steven Hillenburg, and I hope to enjoy Sponge on the Run, hopefully in a theater.